Readers Entertainment Radio presents Booklights with your host, author Lisa Kessler. Booklights, where we're shining a light on good books.
Hello, everyone. It's Monday, a new week, a new month. Can you believe we're in August and a lot of us are still staying inside? So I'm so glad you're with us, and I hope you're reading so many books right now. I have a fabulous author to chat with today, and I can't wait for you to meet her. It's USA Today best-selling author Hank Phillippi Ryan. She was on about 6 months ago. I looked back because I wanted to remember for sure because it was before the whole world changed. And so we'll talk about that too. If you haven't read her yet, I'm going to read her bio for you. Hank Phillippi Ryan has won 5 Agatha Awards in addition to the Anthony, the McCavity, Daphne du Maurier, and the Mary Higgins Clark Award for her best-selling mystery novels. As an investigative reporter, her work has resulted in new laws, criminals sent to prison, homes saved from foreclosure, and millions of dollars in restitution for victims and consumers. Along with her 36 Emmy Awards and 14 Edward R. Murrow Awards, Hank has received dozens of other honors for her groundbreaking journalism. A former president of Sisters in Crime and founder of MWA University, she lives in Boston with her husband, a nationally renowned civil rights and criminal defense attorney. She is the author of acclaimed psychological thriller Trust Me and the Jay Ryland series, which begins with The Other Woman. She also has The Murder List, came out earlier this year and was a USA Today bestseller. And I did put a link to her website right there on the Blog Talk site. So if you're listening live, you can click that anytime and sign up for her newsletter and check out the books that are all there for you to read while you're locked down. And also you can find her on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So without any further delay, are you there, Hank?
I'm here, and I love those delays when you say such kind words about me. I'm just sitting here all in Boston, just happily listening to what you're saying. It's very nice to hear. Thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be here.
Oh, we're so glad to have you back. Tomorrow is release day for The First Lie, right?
The First to Lie comes out tomorrow, yes, and you are so right, and I am in pre-launch crazy jitters. This is my 12th thriller, and I have to say that it does not get any easier, and I don't feel any more casual about it, la-di-da. It's just like right. Sort of tonight is like Christmas Eve, or like the eve of maybe even a final exam or something like that, when you think, did I do enough, did I study enough, or was I good enough, will people like this? And my brain is just going, every author knows about this, my brain is going a million miles an hour to hope that people love The First to Lie. That does come out tomorrow. Thank you so much for reminding me of that.
Right.
Launch
you have that little voice.
A big deal.
Yes, and that little voice in your head going, maybe I'm the only one who likes this book.
Well, there is that. I mean, it always happens, doesn't it? You're writing along, and there are days that you have good writing days, and you think, oh, I love this. And then other days you think, oh, my golly, people are going to read this. What is going? And so, so it's just gotten stellar reviews. Publishers Weekly loved it and called it stellar, actually. And Booklist loved it, too. It said page-turning twists and mind-bending drama or something wonderful along those lines. So I'm incredibly happy with the review response, over the moon with the review response, and readers' response has been just wonderful. So, that's what you sort of rely on. And when you see people, I've already gotten emails saying that they loved it so much that they've read it again. So The First to Lie is out there, and it will be available tomorrow. And yes, thank you. I am happy that this psychological standalone is out there in the world.
And without giving away spoilers, can you tell us about it so that everybody runs out and pre-orders it today?
That would be so nice. Thank you, Lisa.
Right?
There's a fun thing on social media that says, can you describe your book in 4 words? And then there's another one on social media that says, in 5 phrases, describe your book. So my 4 words are, for The First to Lie, my 4 words are betrayal, motherhood, obsession, and revenge. And that is the first to lie. But my 5 phrases I could use to describe the first to lie are, let's see, a devastating childhood betrayal, an undercover reporter who's gone in too deep, a beautiful sailboat on the Chesapeake Bay, a rich and powerful family, and an ice pick that is not used for ice. So basically, it's two smart women facing off in a high-stakes psychological cat and mouse game to get revenge for a terrible childhood betrayal. But which woman is the cat and which woman is the mouse? And which one will succeed? Because if one of the women's revenge succeeds, the other one is doomed to fail. So it all depends on who is the first to lie. And that is this new psychological standalone that comes out tomorrow.
That's so cool. And I wrote down while you were saying that, I wrote down the reporter's thing, because that's what you've done for most of your life, right? How often does reporting and journalism come into your books? Are they often characters? How do you draw on real life for that?
Well, it's interesting, especially for the first to lie, because the first to lie does have an undercover person or two in it. And I have been a television reporter for 43 years now, if you can imagine. And I have wired myself with hidden cameras. I'm sorry?
Since you were 4, right?
When I was 4, exactly.
4 years old.
Exactly,
yeah.
Totally. Thank you so much for that. No, so I've been a reporter for 43 years, a television reporter for 43 years. And I've wired myself with hidden cameras and confronted corrupt politicians and gone undercover and in disguise. And I began to wonder about going undercover. You know, the idea of what happens when a reporter goes undercover, because they really, one of the keys of going successfully undercover, which I've done many times, and I've only gotten caught once, one of the keys of going successfully undercover is that you truly believe that you are who you are pretending to be. It's like method acting. So you're not only investigating, but you're being a different person with different motivations and different reactions and different assessments of a situation, the reactions of the person who you are pretending to be. And I wondered when I was thinking about that, what would happen if somebody who went undercover decided that their undercover persona would make their lives more successful than their real person. You know, that what if being someone else could get you what you want? Would you completely change your life and could you simply, or would it be simple, become someone else by being your undercover persona? And that was sort of the beginning of the first to lie. It didn't turn out to be exactly that, but that idea that we are always, all of us are always pretending to be someone else depending on who we're with. You know, you might behave differently. You would behave differently with your mom than you would with your boss, than you would with your best friend, than you would with a stranger. You're putting on this undercover almost personality from time to time. And you be that person. And then when you get home and you're yourself again, you know, you're someone else. So that idea of pretending and disguise and impersonation and lying, which is what that is, that became very central to my book. So in the first to lie, the question is, who is the first to lie? Who is the first to become someone else, and what do they want, and how far will they go to get it? And when you mix in revenge to that concoction, that's a powerful motivation, revenge, especially if you feel that you've been devastatingly betrayed by someone you thought loved you.
Right.
So my undercover reporting really informs that idea of pretending to be someone else and what you have to do. The first line of the first to lie is, lies have a complicated half-life. And what that means is, right, because they never quite go away. because you have told that lie to someone, and that person remembers some part of it. And the more you lie, the more you have to remember, and the more tangled your requirements are, because at every moment that you're doing this, at every moment that you're being this new person, you have to remember what you said in the past, knowing that some of that baggage will never disappear.
Right. Remembering lies is almost harder than lying.
Yeah, that off-the-cuff lying is pretty easy, but then how do you remember that? And knowing that other people care about it as much as you do. Other people, other characters in the books, in the book have different motivations and want different things, and they're using your lies to prop those up. And what if that's not true? So you see how complicated our lives are. So I wanted to make a fun, fast-paced, entertaining, before COVID, I would have said, I want you to miss your stop on the subway. I want you to miss your stop on the subway because you're reading this so fast. But I guess now I want you to, not be able to get to sleep because you just want one more chapter. I mean, they say, write the kind of book you love to read. And I love high-stakes, fast-paced, compelling psychological thrillers with, I don't have graphic sex in my books. I don't have graphic violence in my books. I don't even have much inappropriate language. I just have misdirection and gaslighting and mind games and, a little bit of murder and a lot of deception. And I love the twisty-turny books like Samantha Downing and Samantha Bailey and Ruth Ware and Sherry LaPena, all those wonderful page-turning thrillers that are realistic. These are stories that could happen to you. And I think, when we talk about the pandemic, it's always safe inside a book, isn't it? It's always safe inside a book because you can be someone else. You can live someone else's story and make someone else's decisions and forget for a little while that we're living in this absolute insane, ridiculous, terrifying world and just sort of let those walls fall away and be inside the first to lie instead.
Yes, and I was going to ask you this too. As a writer, when the world is on fire, I have found writing to be difficult during quarantine because there's this inner voice that's going, why does this matter? And there's so many huge problems going on right now. Why does this matter? And yet I hear from readers, please, we need more stories. We need, good endings. And how do you feel? How important is fiction right now while we're so locked down and scary outside?
Oh, what a good question. I read somewhere that, and I can't remember who said this, but we chose this writing life before this disaster occurred, and we chose it actively and with intent for a reason, because we love it and because we think it's necessary, and because we're driven to do it, and because we are storytellers and we know that people love stories. So the idea that the world is scary doesn't make that wrong, right? We still made a good decision to be writers, and the world still needs stories, probably now more than ever. I agree. Right. I have had a difficult time writing. I think not because I think, why is this worth it? I never sort of lost sight of that it was worth it, but I'm distracted. I'm just too easily distracted. I mean, I always think, I need to make sure we have food. I need to make sure that I wash my hands. I need, all those kinds of, there's this sort of veneer of terror over everything that I'm not used to. And it's kind of interesting because as a reporter, when I've been in all kinds of scary situations, fires and SWAT teams and tear gas and tornadoes and hurricanes, and, you persevere through that. That's part of the job. I can write a news story in a hurricane, and it's fine.
Right.
But this is different than that. This is drawing on a different part of our brain and a different part of our emotion than we usually do. And I really think that one of the things that we all as writers can do for each other is to reassure each other that we're all feeling the same thing. I know some friends who say that they've written more than ever during the pandemic, but far more are saying, oh, my golly, I can't get my brain to work. And it's scary because that's what we rely on. I have to tell you, one of my secrets for that, just like a 5-year-old, is I set a timer, and I say for 34 minutes I'm not going to do anything but write, and I'm not going to think about anything else. I'm not going to look at social media, and I'm not going to look at the news, and I'm not going to worry about anything. I'm just going to put myself in the world of my book for 34 minutes, I promise, until this timer goes off. And it is, our brains are funny creatures, and that kind of works. It really kind of works. And once I do my first 34 minutes, I'm much more likely to get my second 34 minutes because I have trained my brain to focus on something else. So I do think that there's a COVID willpower that we need to try to tap into as much as we possibly can. Don't you?
Right. Oh, yeah. I found that the book that just came out, I had to write it during COVID, and I was so behind. And I found a group of authors, and we all did Zoom write-ins. So we would all be on Zoom, muted, for 30 minutes at a time. And so anytime you started to get distracted, you could see everybody else writing, and you're like, nope, gotta keep writing.
Oh,
and
that's
we got
wonderful.
So much done. Yeah, so it was an interesting way to use Zoom, but just having, seeing that other people were writing, even though we were all muted, it helped so much. And then we would check in at the end of 30 minutes. We'd all share our word count, and then we'd go back in. And that knowing that you're going to share your word count and seeing everybody else writing really helped. I got like 20,000 words written in 5 days, and I was like, oh, wow. I needed this. So it does really help to have a timer or have peer pressure with your friends who are all writing, because it is so hard to focus right now. It's just crazy. Maybe it's because it's invisible. If I feel like if I could see the virus, it would be much better. But because it's invisible, I'm just like, whoa.
Well, it's so interesting because I live in Boston, where in the winter there are blizzards. I mean, it is stay inside, can't go out blizzard. So I said to my husband, I'm just going to pretend it's a blizzard. That our car is snowed into the driveway and the streets are closed and I can't even open my door because the snow was piled so high. And, that isn't, and we don't bat an eye at that. That's fine. Because we think, oh, well, I'm going to stay home for a while. And I keep thinking in a blizzard, the power could go out. We still have power, so that's good. In a blizzard, we can't go to the grocery, so I can still have food delivered. That's good. So I try to look at the bright side of it, but I agree with you so thoroughly, Lisa, is that the invisibleness of it is what, when I talk about writing with this veneer of terror, that's what it is, because we as writers, one of the things that we rely on is that we can control something. We can control our book. We can control our story. We know what's going to happen. We know when it's the day before the launch that you'll be packing and getting, boarding passes, and the publisher will be getting you hotel rooms. And I knew I'd be flying off for 2 weeks to talk to people in person, to talk to them about the first to lie. And now, I'm on radio and I'm on Zoom and I'm on Crowdcast, and so it's just such a different life, but we're having to, especially people like us who are authors, are having to just regroup and spin and reevaluate and try to do something else for some amount of time, some amount of time.
Right. Yeah, it's just been crazy. but I
so I'm
and,
the
and
idea
like
of
you said, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, the idea of promoting a book, The First to Lie, that has been so well received. What I hear from readers in the Zooms and the events that I have done so far is that they're longing for new things to read, and they have branched out in their reading choices and are reading new authors that they might not have before. Because they are now back to reading. I think early on in the pandemic, people had a harder time even reading because, again, it's so distracting. And now I hear from so many people that this is the perfect time for a new book to come out. This is the perfect time for The First to Lie to come out because people are now saying, give me those books. I need distraction.
Right.
If we're going to have to stay inside, we might as well stay inside. And staying inside a book is a very good thing.
Yes, I agree. And I've heard from a lot of people, too, that they're busy listening to audiobooks right now because reading sometimes is hard for people to concentrate right now. So is it coming out in audio as well?
It is. It's on Macmillan Audio. It's on every platform, Macmillan Audio, and from Forge Books in ebook and in hardcover. It's beautiful. What a beautiful cover. And speaking of audiobooks, that's interesting because one of the things that I have learned about writing is from audiobooks, and it's sort of a hint that I would love to share is that when you are reading an audiobook, it is so important that the reader is grounded in the setting at the beginning of every chapter, because you can't, in a book, in a physical book, you can go back and say, where was I? Who was talking? What was it about? If you've put the book down. But in an audiobook, they just go so inexorably forward that if at the beginning of the chapter you don't say, meanwhile back at the ranch, not that you would say that, but something that grounds the reader in where you are. And as a result of audiobooks and the love of audiobooks, I've learned to write my books in a kind of a different and more careful way with the audio listener in mind, so that it's very clear to them. Yes, so it's very clear to them where they are in the book, whose point of view it is, and what the setting is and the time. Just quickly, just tucked in, because there's no way for the reader to go back and check.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And have you listened to your audiobooks? Are you in love with the narrators? Do they have dual narration, or is it just the first person? I haven't read The First to Lie, of course, because it's not out yet. But how do they work that?
The First to Lie has the same narrator who narrated Where the Crawdads Sing. And so I'm incredibly happy about that. And I know, it just gives me goosebumps. And she won't use the Southern accent that she did in that book, of course, but she is marvelous. And I haven't heard it yet. I haven't heard the audiobook yet, so that'll be very exciting for me. I do say, though, that the audiobook of The Murder List is phenomenal. I mean, it is, Angela Daw is reading it, and when I heard it for the first time, I was in an airport. Remember airports? I was in an airport, and my editor sent me this file, an audio file, and I'm sitting in the airport, I think at O'Hare, and she said, pop your earbuds in, and listen to this. And I did. I popped my earbuds in the waiting area for my flight to wherever it was, and pushed play, and there was Rachel North come to life in The Murder List. I mean, I almost burst into tears when I heard it. The Angela Dawes voice and the inflection and the tone and the sensibility and that edge, which she just really captured it. So I think a good audiobook. I love the audiobook of all my audiobooks. And The Murder List is, I know, especially great, and I am overwhelmed with The First to Lie, and I know I'll burst into tears when I hear that as well.
Right? Yeah, when you have a narrator who can really bring all the sides of the character in, it's magic. It's really cool. It's like your book, elevates to one other level that you didn't realize until you hear it. It's really neat.
I mean, do you know about First Chapter Fun? Another author, Hannah Mary McKinnon, and I have a Facebook and Instagram program called First Chapter Fun, where every Tuesday and Thursday at 11:30 a.m. we read the first chapter of a new book out loud on Facebook and Instagram Live.
How fun!
Yeah, it is fun. It's a lovely little fun interlude for like 20 minutes every Tuesday and Thursday at 11:30 a.m., First Chapter Fun. And Hannah or I will read the first chapter. And we have a huge following of people who come and just listen. It's like story time for grown-ups for like 20 minutes.
I love that.
And the authors always are there listening to us read their first chapters. And you reminded me when talking about audiobooks, you reminded me of how amazing that is for them. I mean, they always say that their books come to life on audio, and I think that's one of the reasons for the popularity of audiobooks. So that's really fun. And so audiobooks are growing in popularity. It's quite a phenomenon. So very pleased that mine is so wonderful.
Yeah, that is so cool. And so the First Chapter Fun, is that the name of the Facebook page that people should look for?
Yes, First Chapter Fun. First Chapter Fun is a group on Facebook and also a page on Instagram. So we're live on Facebook and live on Instagram at the same time, which is quite a technological juggle, but we manage it. So come join us.
Yeah, you and I were talking before
us.
the show about the world of Zoom and how we're all learning how to live this new life.
Well, we have to look at it as another acquired skill and pat ourselves on the back for being troopers. We all really are. We love this writing life, and we love what we do, and we're so lucky that to stay safe and stay well and wash our hands and wear a mask and do all those things that we really need to do, and then hope that soon this is over. But we'll always have books.
Yes.
Won't we? The idea that you and I can talk about books and writing, and you can help me launch The First to Lie tomorrow, which I am very grateful about. The community, the writing community and the reading community is one of the most supportive groups you can imagine. And what you do for all of us is so pivotal. You bring us together, and you help us share.
Oh, thank you.
I'm just so grateful to be part of that.
Oh, thank you. I enjoy it so much because, we write in our little cave with our timer and all that kind of thing. And it's so nice. Every week I look forward to talking to new authors about their new books, and it keeps me connected because we are, little writer people in our caves, and it is a lonely occupation, but it is really neat to connect.
Mm-hmm. And we know that our books come to life. Like The First to Lie will come to life when the reader reads it. That's the thing. The book is not fully realized. The book is not fully realized until it's in someone else's hands or ears. And that's what I really hope for. I love thinking about people reading The First to Lie and thinking about all the stuff that went into it. And I'm hoping that it changes their life and changes their philosophy and it entertains them like crazy, because, that's my complete goal.
Yeah, and we need that right now. People need they need the stories, they need the chance to live through somebody else, since we're all sort of shut down right now. So thank you for giving us another story.
My pleasure. I love writing, and I love The First to Lie. I know that there was a moment writing The First to Lie or two, and I thought, I don't know if this will work. So seeing all of it in its finished glory is quite a joy for me, as for every author, to see that new book and to see that gorgeous cover and to imagine people reading The First to Lie is quite astonishing and quite reassuring. So I hope your listeners will find me on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and come to my website at Hank Phillippi, which is hankphillippiryan.com. Lots of wonderful events, and that is one of the wonderful things about this horrible situation, is that I can meet so many people at the events that I have. So my events are all listed on my website, and I hope you and everyone will come join me to talk about The First to Lie.
Yes, and everyone be sure to look on Facebook and Instagram for First Chapter Fun, because that sounds fantastic, where they're going to read to you on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, right?
11:30 a.m. Eastern. And this Tuesday, Hannah Mary McKinnon is reading from The First to Lie. So that is a wonderful book birthday for me.
It is. Oh, that's fantastic. So I will tune in tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern and hear the first chapter of The First to Lie. And everyone run out and grab that book. If you pre-order it today, it will be in your e-reader tonight. So go grab that book. Thanks so much for coming back on, Hank. It was great to have you.
It was great to be here, too. Thank you, and stay safe, and I hope to talk to you soon. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Okay, talk to you later.
Thanks for joining us on Booklights. Be sure to connect with us at www.readersentertainment.com for articles, blogs, videos, and podcasts that matter to readers.